Today's video is kind of a miracle, not because I'm building a habitat for these squirrel monkeys, but because I had to significantly size down today's build, which happens basically never. But anyways, my name is Poisonblade. I hope all of you are having a wonderful day. Thank you guys all for being here, and cue the rest of the video. Yes, the Squirrel Monkeys are a mod. They are made by Leaf Productions, so as with the previous mod, I will link Leaf's channel in the description. I will link the mod in the description. But anyway, when it comes to the actual build for today, it's a miracle because I had to downsize it. That doesn't happen. That downsizing a build on the Poisonblade channel doesn't happen unless I go into it with like, well, actually, no, it just doesn't happen. If I make a small build, it's because I wanted to build a small build, which also rarely happens, but downsizing an actual build doesn't happen. But yeah, with this build, it happened, because I was building off a reference, and the intention was fully to build a monkey house. There was not any lore or so behind this build, it was just monkey house. And I'm going to build some lore around that when I finish the build. Or halfway finish the build, because I had to make an interior, but then I got lazy and I just turned it into some sort of market building, because I didn't want to build another bar. But anyway, when it came to the actual building, as I said, miracle that's downsized. But also, the other thing is, it's very obviously a habitat. I wanted something that looks like, yes, this is obviously a habitat, because, well, Kayan al-Bashar is like inspired by basically the entire Mediterranean up until India and the East. I don't take much inspiration from India. I think my inspiration goes from southern Spain to like Iran. Like that's the length of where the inspiration goes. So it's very hard to sometimes say like, oh yeah, what's your inspiration, or what are your points of inspiration for Kayan al-Bashar? I can just cover the entire Mediterranean and Levant, Arabian Peninsula, yeah, basically the entire Middle East as well. But anyway, so as I said, this build was supposed to be very visibly a habitat, because I was inspired by a building from, not Pinterest, it was on ArtStation, but I used that reference, but then figured out, oh, that reference is huge. Well, the reference isn't used. The reference actually looks like kind of a small building, but your dear old Poisonblade did make it way too large. So what you're going to see, well, I think what you're seeing right now, half of it is going to be gone. I basically cut what I'm building right now in half, placed it back together, because then it wouldn't be huge. Because, yeah, I have a specific place in mind for this build in Kayan al-Bashar, but then I really thought I had a lot more space than I actually had. So then I downsized it. But as I said, I want to make this obviously a habitat, and then I wanted something indoors, but that's still very visible for anyone looking in. So that's usually one of the things that I struggle with. If I have like an indoor section, it sometimes becomes very hard to actually see the animals in them, because I want to make this like really ornate roof or window things, and then you can't barely see through whatever I'm building. So sometimes I legitimately have to just stop myself from decorating things, because then it's just like, yeah, Poison, you can't see through this glass anymore. So here it was literally just like, alright, I have this glass, I want to have like some kind of lining, because the glass is of course set into something. But then it was just like, oh, I want to have this intricate design on the glass. And then me, it was just like, no, Poison, nobody's going to be able to see through the glass. Even though I'm not sure why I'm still building Kayan al-Bashar for the ability to have guests in the park or in the zoo. Because, oh lord, my frame rate is not going to survive guests. But anyway, another thing, like this building is just full of surprises because it's pink. Well, not pink, it's purple. Don't know why I said pink, but a lot of the building, or actually two parts of the building, but they are very brightly purple. And that's also something that I had to, like, usually I have to add colors to a building because I make them way too beige. Like, beige is my safety color. Beige and I are friends and such. So whenever I have a building, I usually have the problem of making it too beige or have no colors whatsoever. Here the problem was I had too many colors because it's purple, red and blue. I would say, at least for Kayan al-Bashar, I should probably stick to only adding 2 different colors besides beige. But yeah, here I was just like, oh yeah, this could be fun, like having more colors in a building. This is going to make it really stand out in Kayan al-Bashar. And then it stood out like a circus tent. So a lot of the color, well, mostly the purple, I had to really tone down the purple. Like right now it's really bright purple and I had to really mute it down. And at a certain point I was just like, oh, this could look very nice if it was like blue or red. And then I just had to say, poison, the rest of the building is already a circus tent. Don't make the rest of what you're going to build now also a circus tent. So at a certain point I had to actually stop myself from adding colors and build in beige. That's never happening, or that never happened before, because, well, I'm still saying that this is your guys' damned influence, because beforehand Kayan al-Bashar was all beige and was happy and peaceful. Now it's colorful, but I am going insane and I'm adding way too much color. So the purple that you're seeing right now is going to get muted, and as I said, it's going to get downsized because it's way too large. And yeah, here you can see the first hints of the blue, and then in the end you will see the reds, which is sort of rosy red. I don't know colored names besides turquoise, teal. I don't know that many color names now that I think of it. What was this video supposed to be about? Oh yeah, different colors. No. But anyway, when it came to the Squirrel Monkeys, this was actually a fun thing that just completely destroyed me mentally on stream, because all of this build was streamed. But I thought that my favorite monkeys were a different kind of monkey, but then I realized, oh no, it's a squirrel monkey. Why did I have a different name? Like, I used to have a stuffed toy of a squirrel monkey, but I thought it was a different monkey. And then somebody pointed out to me, no, Poison, that's a squirrel monkey. I didn't show the stuffed toy on camera. I don't have it anymore. Just to clarify that. But I looked up close to one of the squirrel monkeys and thought like, oh, that really looks like my stuffed animal that I used to have when I was 4, which was my favorite monkey at the time. Well, it still is my favorite monkey because they are very... I just like squirrel monkeys. Sometimes you don't have to have an explanation for why you like something, you just sometimes do. But I then thought like, no, that's not my favorite monkey, because my favorite monkey is... Can't even actually remember the name of my favorite monkey besides Squirrel Monkey now. But yeah, then I just went to like, no, that's not my favorite monkey, even though my stuffed toy is really just a squirrel monkey. But no, that my stuffed toy is not a squirrel monkey. And then I went through a complete mental breakdown. Well, not actually, I was just sort of dazed and amazed and confused because I didn't... Again, for me it just didn't click that I just had the wrong name for whatever my stuffed toy was, or my stuffed plushie was. Which, yes, now I realize is a squirrel monkey, but I thought it was a different kind of monkey. Like, I think I thought it was like a skull monkey, which I don't think actually exists. Yeah, let's just move on from my confusion and let's move back into the actual build. So, Squirrel Monkeys. My favorite monkey, even though I had this weird thing with a stuffed plushie that I thought wasn't a squirrel monkey, but actually was, and moving back into the build again, trying to go into this sort of transition from talking about my stuffed toy that I had when I was 4. But here is another thing that I need to talk about. I am bad at making climbing things for the animals. I want to build them. It's actually the complete opposite story of whenever I build bridges, because I never want to build bridges, or I never have the inspiration to build bridges, but when I am building a bridge, it comes together easily. There's somehow a lot of creativity when I build bridges, or at least for me it seems a really creative process. But whenever I build climbing structures for animals. I want to build them, I'm inspired to build them, but whenever I start building them, it's just like, where's the creativity? Where's the fun? And then it just ends up with me looking for images on Google on climbing things for monkeys, which usually doesn't give me the results that I want, because if you type in climbing habitat monkey, you just get a lot of pictures of monkeys. I want the climbing stuff that is in their habitat, not the monkeys themselves. Yeah, this climbing thing actually came together. Like, without doing much, they could use it. Like, completely. Like, well, it also is obviously easier because squirrel monkeys are tiny, which, again, I like, because tiny animals are usually adorable. Like, for me, it's very easy to just define what I find a nice animal or an animal that I like, and it's small or large, but if it's large, it needs to be fluffy and maybe slightly derpy. I like the sun bears because they are really derpy. Have you seen their tongues? And I mean, red pandas are just like, they are me. They are sleepy most of the time. Sometimes they go insane and they think they are far more threatening than they actually are. Have you seen a red panda trying to threaten anyone? It's adorable. And I very much relate to that. Because, I mean, I think, built up the image of, like, whenever I'm in or watching somebody else's stream and I'm in the chat, I'm sort of the playground bully. Like, I friendly tease everybody. Like, nothing is meant to be taken seriously. But if you see me in real life, I look way too innocent. I mean, you might have seen me in real life because I'm now having a face cam for the streams, but yeah. I really identify with the red panda, mostly because of the sleeping thing, though. I love to sleep. Sleep is my favorite part of the day. Like, you know. Actually, the favorite part of the day for me is not actually sleeping. It's like the few minutes right before you fall asleep and just the hour after you wake up, because then you're like the perfect position. The temperature in bed is just right and everything is just right. Like, I don't like sleeping itself. I think I just like lying in bed with like the perfect position. I should move on, shouldn't I? Because I've gone on a tangent on my stuffed toy and now I'm talking about sleeping. I'm going to probably fall asleep in 5 seconds now because I keep talking about things relating to sleep. But anyway, back to the actual squirrel monkeys. There's a funny thing when they use the climbing things in this habitat though. They Superman jump from one side of the place to the other. Isn't a fault of the mod itself. That's just like, that Superman jumping is just built in the game. It's the climbing mechanics that are wonky. The mod itself works perfectly. It's just the climbing mechanics overall that are built in Planet Zoo right from the get-go, from when the game launched, that are wonky. It's funny, sometimes frustrating, because they see things that should be climbable but don't recognize as climbable. But other times, it's funny as hell because they Superman jump from one side of the habitat to the other. And it looks very funny because it's like, I mean, again, it's Superman jumping, so all limbs are completely outstretched and they just sort of have this weird animation because they just go up and they don't change how they, you know, the position of their body, and then they just flop down. So, yeah. Climbing mechanics in Planet Zoo, not the best, I would say. They work, but they're not the best, and when they go wonky, it's hilarious. But of course, it can also be very frustrating because I've had multiple times where I built something that should be completely climbable, that should be usable, but the animals for some reason didn't see it as climbable or just never climbed it. The Wizard's Tower in Valhalla is one example. There's a koala habitat in Kayan al-Bashar that for some reason only worked very recently. Beforehand it didn't work. So yeah, a lot of times I'm just like, yeah, this should be climbable. I'm just going to leave it as it is because I think it's just a bug or just the wonky climbing mechanics and it looks pretty. So yeah, you can really see where my priorities lie when it comes to Planet Zoo. Buildings and just builds in general first, animals later. Although I do really like the squirrel monkeys. and the red pandas, and the others. But then I see others as kind of like, well, water squirrels. I also like squirrels, but that's just because they are insane. I never fully realized, like, I'm not as hyper as a squirrel, I would say. I mean, I'm chaotic, but not hyper, so it would have made more sense at the start of the channel for me to identify myself as a red panda, but for some reason I stuck with squirrel. Maybe the chaotic thing was just so overwhelming in the beginning of the channel that, well, beginning of the channel was actually less. Now I'm more chaotic than in the beginning. Yeah, there's somebody there who is watching my earlier videos and I'm asking you to... No? My earlier videos are a crap show. And, well, that's with every YouTuber or content creator. Their earlier videos are... They will say that they are horrible. Even though there was a lot of time spent in them, looking back on them, they were horrible. Anyway, going back into the actual build. So this is before most things were sized down. The actual habitat was already sized down, but I had to size down the actual build as well, which... Luckily I did that because it looked way too pristine, because this build is going to go into the old town of Kayan al-Bashar, which is... I want to say that I had the intent with like, oh yeah, I always wanted to have an old town of Kayan al-Bashar. But the old town of Kayan al-Bashar was supposed to be the suburbs. This is still part of Kayan al-Bashar's like city area, but yeah, the old town of Kayan al-Bashar is literally the desert area that I still had left on the map. And then I thought like, oh, it makes sense to have like an old town that's on like ground level, because if airships are a recent invention in this fantasy world of mine, it makes sense that the first settlement of Kayan al-Bashar would be on the ground and not on any of the floating islands, because how the hell would people get up there in the first place? So the old town of Kayan al-Bashar is going to be on ground level, and it's going to also have probably some other animals. I'm thinking of like donkeys, maybe some pigs, penguins, because yes, penguins is happening. I'm placing Esten's build in the old town of Kayan al-Bashar, so he is going to have some penguins, which is going to be fun to build those. Mostly I changed it because Esten's build, like, I set Esten's build a flame. I don't actually know why. I think I just wanted to change, well, yeah, I still don't know actually why I set Esten's llama farm aflame, but I burned it down. Now it's replaced with just a grain field with llamas in it, so probably need to change that one. But then I also want to change the interior of the Hagia Sophia, and I'm still needing to get to that. But yeah, Kayan al-Bashar is going to have penguins, and I'm going to make it make sense. Don't worry about that, I'm going to make it make sense. But now going back into the actual build of today. So at first, this was just Monkey House, and I already, or might have already said, that I was going to make up lore for it after I finished it. Or when I was like halfway done. And then I thought like, alright, this is a very big building, so it's probably going to have like some sort of official function. And then I thought, oh, like not all trade to Kayan al-Bashar is coming in by airship. Some of it is probably... well, most of it probably is going to come in by land, and then it has to be transported up all of the bridges, or maybe it has to be shipped into an airship and go up. So maybe this would be like a handy depot, or like some place where they would initially come with the goods and then it would be sent up to the city. And so then it immediately went like, oh, trade depot, and then I want to have some market stalls, because of course there's going to be a lot of people here conducting, I don't know why I want to say conducting, but conducting business, so that's going to also lure in traders to set up shop here and not just, you know, ship things here. And so it turned from this sort of trade depot into also sort of a market building, and now it's just it's basically a clusterfuck of whatever the function of this building is. It's just related to trade. And then I came up with a story for like, why are there squirrel monkeys here? Well, smugglers. I mean, I always had the thing of like, oh, I want to have like some kind of smuggler base in Kayan al-Bashar, because Kayan al-Bashar, I mean, from the get-go was very interesting when it came to crime. I have toned down Kayan al-Bashar. Like, at first it was very murdery and such. Now it's more intrigue, scheming, and the very rare murder. Although you still shouldn't go into the suburbs at nighttime because that's dangerous. But I have toned down the like criminal side of Kayan al-Bashar. But I mean, smuggling is going to happen. So I made up the story like maybe somebody tried to smuggle the Squirrel Monkeys into Kayan al-Bashar, got caught. They were placed here temporarily, but after a while the Squirrel Monkeys sort of settled here, and people loved having the Squirrel Monkeys here, and they just kept them here. And so they try to make their habitat as like Squirrel Monkey friendly as possible. But yeah, at first they were not supposed to stay here. I imagine that some kind of like bureaucrat, or just like that some paperwork was just like went wrong and they stayed here for way too long, and then they completely settled here, and they wouldn't be able to survive out in the wild wherever they came from initially, because this is a complete fantasy world, so I have no idea where Squirrel Monkeys fit in this world. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of relatable, that administration or paperwork takes way longer, and then there's mistakes because it takes way longer. And yeah, the Squirrel Monkeys are basically here by mistake. Well, they are here first with criminal reasons, and then they were just here because somebody forgot about them. And now they are staying here. But anyway, as I said, this building is going to get very toned down and sized down. I think in the end we only have half of this building remaining, but I'm very happy with it. Mostly because it's insane. As I said, it's kind of a circus tent. It will forever remain that way. We had the blue walls, now you're seeing the red domes that I'm building on top of it. And yeah, those domes were supposed to be purple. I just forgot to recolor the pieces, and then I had a full dome and I didn't want to recolor them. So yeah, sometimes I make a mistake or am just too lazy to change something, and then I roll with it. So this building became way more colorful because I was lazy. And so I had to tone down a lot of it just to not admit my earlier mistake or my earlier laziness, because I mean, that sometimes just happens. And I really still like the building just because it's like, it's so out there that it fits. Like, Kayan al-Bashar is very out there, but there's some like consistency to it. But this building is just so out there that it, again, weirdly fits. Like, sometimes a building goes so far that it goes back to normal. And this is one of those buildings. And I really liked it because also, with this dome, I could tie in the Ethiopian architecture with all of the domes in Kayan al-Bashar. Because I basically took not completely the shape of one of those Ethiopian houses that I've made previously, but I used a little bit of it, morphed it a little bit to make it kind of like the transitional dome. Like, you have the Ethiopian village that I made with those domes, and then you have pure Kayan al-Bashar domes, which are basically pure Arabian domes. And then I wanted to have like, because in Kayan al-Bashar, history had to go differently. I mean, Kayan al-Bashar is a fantasy world, so history is going to go differently here. But anyway, that's it for today's video. If you liked today's video, there is the like and subscribe button if you want to see more. If you like today's build, you can also put that in the comments, because I have a massive ego and I don't mind inflating that even more. And then there's also the notification button, which doesn't work, so I'm just going to move on from that one. And then, of course, again, all of the credit for this mod goes to Leaf Productions. I will leave a link to the mod and to his channel. Please say hi to him from me. And yeah, I hope all of you enjoyed today's video, and I wish all of you a wonderful day. Bye bye!